Who is Mystery Babylon, or the daughter of Babylon? In the Bible, there's a place called Mystery Babylon in Revelation. And it's not quite clear who Mystery Babylon is, or the daughter of Babylon. So let's go through it and see if we can figure it out. Now this is from Revelation 17 in the King James Version Bible. And there came one of the 7 angels which had the 7 vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, Come hither, I will show unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters. So who is the great whore that sitteth upon many waters? Could it be the Statue of Liberty in New York City, the harbor of New York City? Now, the Statue of Liberty was based on an ancient sex goddess called Ishtar. Now, another name for her was Inanna, and she was an ancient Mesopotamian goddess associated with love, war, beauty, sex, justice, and political power. And she was also known by the name of Ishtar, so she was known for beauty and sex. So the Statue of Liberty was based off of that. Some people say that. And so that's why the Statue of Liberty could be called the whore that sits on many waters. Because the Statue of Liberty is, to some people, is based off of Ishtar. And it is surrounded by many waters. Now back to Revelation 17. This is Revelation 17:2. With whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication. I know one thing about the United States is that they're the center of the porn industry on the planet. So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast, full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. And the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand, full of abominations and the filthiness of her fornication. Now, I just mentioned the porn industry in the United States. And upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. And I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints, and with the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. And when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration. And the angel said unto me, Wherefore didst thou marvel? I will tell thee the mystery of the woman, and the beast that carrieth her, which hath the 7 heads and 10 horns. The beast that thou sawest was, and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit, and go into perdition, and they that dwell on the earth shall wonder, whose names were not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, when they behold the beast that was, and is not, and yet is. And here is the mind which hath wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sitteth. And there are 7 kings, 5 are fallen, and 1 is, and the other is not yet come. And when he cometh, he must continue a short space. And the beast that was, and is not, even he is the 8th, and is of the 7, and goeth into perdition. And the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings, which have received no kingdom as yet, but receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast. These have one mind, and shall give their power and strength unto the beast. These shall make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb shall overcome them, for he is Lord of lords and King of kings, and they that are with him are called and chosen and faithful. And he saith unto me, The waters which thou sawest, where the whore sitteth, are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues. That sounds like the United Nations in New York City. People, multitude, nations, and tongues. That's all the people of the world, all the countries of the world, and all the nations of the world, and all the peoples of the world. They meet in New York City at the United Nations building. And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh, and burn her with fire. Could New York City be hit with nuclear bombs someday? That would burn it with fire. That's what they say happens to the daughter of Babylon, is it gets utterly burned with fire. So could New York City get burned with fire? Could New York City be nuked? For God hath put in their hearts to fulfill his will, and to agree and give their kingdom unto the beast, until the words of God shall be fulfilled. And the woman which thou sawest is that great city, which reigneth over the kings of the earth. Now, wouldn't you say that New York City is a great city? And it reigns over the kings of the earth because the United Nations is there, right? The United Nations would be the world government. And after these things I saw another angel come down from heaven, having great power, and the earth was lightened with his glory. And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon, the great is fallen, and is become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and a cage of every unclean and hateful bird. For all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. And the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her, and the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies. And I heard another voice from heaven saying, Come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye not receive of her plagues. For her sins have reached unto heaven, and God hath remembered her iniquities. Reward her even as she rewarded you, and double unto her double according to her works, in the cup which she hath filled to her double. How much she has glorified herself, and lived deliciously, so much torment and sorrow give her. For she saith in her heart, I sit a queen, and am no widow, and shall see no sorrow. Therefore shall her plagues come in one day, death and mourning and famine, and she shall be utterly burned with fire, for strong is the Lord God who judgeth her. So you've seen the pictures of New York City could possibly be nuked. And the kings of the earth, who have committed fornication and lived deliciously with her, shall bewail her and lament for her, when they shall see the smoke of her burning, standing afar off for the fear of her torment, saying, Alas, alas, that great city Babylon, that mighty city, for 1 hour is thy judgment come. And the merchants of the earth shall weep and mourn over her, for no man buyeth their merchandise any more. The merchandise of gold and silver, and precious stones and pearls, and fine linen, and purple and silk and scarlet, and all thine wood, and all manner of vessels and ivory, and all manner vessels of most precious wood, of brass and iron and marble, and cinnamon, and odors, and ointments, and frankincense, and wine, and oil, and fine flour, and wheat, and beasts, and sheep, and horses, and chariots, and slaves, and the souls of men. And the fruits that thy soul lusted after are departed from thee, and all things which were daintily and goodly are departed from thee, and thou shalt find them no more at all. The merchants of these things, which were made rich by her, shall stand afar off for the fear of her torment, weeping and wailing, and saying, Alas, alas, that great city, that was clothed in fine linen, and purple and scarlet, and decked with gold, and precious stones and pearls. For in 1 hour so great riches is come to naught, and every shipmaster, and all the company in ships and sailors, and as many as trade by sea, stood afar off, and cried when they saw the smoke of her burning, saying, What city is like unto this great city? So just reading that, this city has to have some sort of port where ships come. So it can't be Rome, because Rome doesn't have any harbor. And they cast dust on their heads and cried, weeping and wailing, saying, Alas, alas, that great city, wherein were made rich all that had ships in the sea, by reason of her costliness. For in 1 hour is she made desolate. Rejoice over her, thou heaven, and ye holy apostles and prophets, for God hath avenged you on her. And a mighty angel took up a stone like a great millstone, and cast it into the sea, saying, Thus with violence shall that great city Babylon be thrown down, and shall be found no more at all. And the voice of harpers and musicians, and of pipers and trumpeters, shall be heard no more at all in thee. And no craftsman, or whatsoever craft he be, shall be found any more in thee. and the sound of a millstone shall be heard no more at all in thee. So when they say the voice of harpers and musicians and pipers and trumpeters, that sounds to me like Broadway in New York City. That's where all the entertainment is in New York City. And the light of a candle shall shine no more at all in thee, and the voice of the bridegroom and of the bride shall be heard no more at all in thee. For thy merchants were the great men of the earth, for by thy sorceries were all nations deceived. And in her were found the blood of prophets and of saints and of all that were slain upon the earth. Now it says right here, it says their merchants were the great men of the earth. That sounds to me like Wall Street in New York City. So was New York City the daughter of Babylon, and will it be destroyed by fire?